Welcome to Optimove Connect 2025. I'm Ross from Next.io, and I have the absolute pleasure of being with Pini, who's the founder and CEO of Optimove. And today we're going to talk about something quite special, the rise, the movement, positionless marketing. Could you just explain, can we just go way back? How have you got here? What is this about?
Yeah, first off, Ross, it's a pleasure being here with you, and I'm excited to spend some time together.
Me too, thanks.
Yeah, so positionless marketer, the notion and the movement started from me just being very much a basketball fan.
But yeah, how did you get there from basketball? Because marketing, basketball, I mean, how does that work, Denny?
Yeah, so maybe we can do it together because I actually know that you are also a basketball fan, so we can discuss it together. But something happened in basketball that, for me, I was actually very fortunate to see it because I loved basketball as a teen, and then I stopped watching it for like 24 years.
Right.
I lost interest. I was a big Michael Jordan guy. I was playing a lot of basketball.
Yeah.
I loved it. I followed it. And then for like 20-something years, I didn't watch it until The Last Dance came along.
Okay, so
COVID.
Michael Jordan again got you back into it.
Precisely. Michael Jordan brought me back into it. And I started watching it during COVID. Also, COVID was like a time where we're all stuck at home. So I started watching it again, and because I had this 24-year-old gap,
right,
I didn't have this the symptom of the frog that's being in a boiling pot that doesn't feel that the water is getting up, because I wasn't in the water. I was away for 24 years, and then I saw a completely different game, which is basically it moved from being a traditional basketball, which is based on positions. Each player play their role and don't move a lot from their role, to a game that's much more fluid, and it's what we call positionless basketball. Right. Maybe you can explain what's positionless basketball to people who don't know basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. So positionless basketball is basically a player that can play all positions and can do everything. So they are extremely valuable. They're normally, they're never too big, they're never too small. So they can be around somewhere from about 6'8" to about some now are about 7'2", but they're really hard to defend because you have to send out a certain player to where they are on the court. So these guys can do a little bit of everything, but they're extremely valuable. I mean, who doesn't want them, right? They're not pigeonholed in, and they're extremely hard to shut down or stop.
So it feels like you define it more like an all-around player,
right?
Like a Scottie Pippen type of a player, just like an all-around player.
Yeah, I would say an all-around player. I mean, there's so many of them now, but yeah. Tell me what you think.
I have a slightly different interpretation. I think I think basically it doesn't. And you and I spoke last night, right? So we had a little pre-debate of the debate. So I know how you feel about it. You have to be at a certain size to be positionless. I think it's about versatility, and it's about having more skill in your game, not necessarily related to size. So what I mean, even if you take the traditional point guard, most point guards in the past were not scoring that much. They would mostly facilitate. Their role was not to score a lot.
Right.
And today in the game, you see a lot of point guards who score a lot. Now, it's not like it didn't happen, but in most cases in the traditional game, the point guard was not the top scorer of a team. Fast forward to today, Jalen Brunson is the top scorer of the Knicks, right? Kyrie Irving, although he plays the two sometimes, is in many cases the top scorer. So I think it's about versatile play, and it's about essentially saying that the game needs to be more fluid, it needs to be faster, and I think also it has to do with a lot of the revolution of media. So kind of like a young Victor Wembanyama in France growing up, idolizing even Steph Curry. So he's 12 years old, he's probably already 6 feet. Or maybe.
I think he was born 5'9".
Probably 6'4" at 12 years old, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but he wants to kind of like work on his handle, right? He wants to shoot fadeaways,
right?
Because it's fun. Everybody works on the three-point shot, right? Big men in the past would never shoot the
They're
three.
in the post, aren't they?
Even sometimes the point guard wouldn't. You would have a John Paxson or Steve Kerr,
yeah,
waiting at the shooter's position. But that's where it started. Positionless basketball is something I found to be really fascinating. And then I thought, is it only basketball? Like, does it have to be only basketball? Is it happening in other fields? And can it happen in marketing?
Right. So, for the marketeers out here, we're going to have a lot of basketball fans listening to this for sure. But just explain, like, how does that work in marketing and in this paced, evolving world we're in now?
Yeah, so I think that ultimately we talk about versatility. And when I started looking at it, I could preach that people should be more versatile and be able to do more things, but then obviously it goes against the notion of going kind of like, the 10,000 hours law, being very deep with something, developing a speciality, which is also, it's not like I don't believe in it, I do. But the thing I come against, and especially being industrial engineer in my training, is the traditional assembly line approach to getting work done. So if you think about an industrial production line, manufacturing something, and you see, modern times with Charlie Chaplin or things
traditional human working spaces.
It's the industrial revolution, right?
Right.
Once we started with the industrial revolution, we needed to find a sustainable, predictable way of manufacturing stuff.
Right.
And it starts with a physical product, but also a virtual product, right? So if you need to produce a marketing campaign, you need to start with a brief and ideation. Then it goes to some kind of a data team that's gonna look for the audience or the segment. Then it goes to some kind of design team that's gonna create the visual assets and the concept. Then it's gonna go to some admin people. It's gonna configure different things across multiple systems. Then it's going to hopefully eventually launch. Then we're going to monitor the results and going to go to an analytics team to analyze the results and see if it worked or not. Then it's going to go to strategists to understand if you should do it again. So this notion of a station by station by station, or step by step by step, or department by department by department, is very good in many ways. It's some of the ways you scale stuff, right? So when I scaled Optimove, of course, you split it to more specializations. But there's a big price to pay there. It's not a perfect system. It kills away autonomy from, you're not allowed to do that.
It's not
your job.
Right?
Yeah, it's not your job.
Right.
You can only stay in your lane. Just going back to basketball, big man, grab rebounds, and rim protect. Don't be shooting threes, and you're stuck waiting all the time. You have to wait for that to be finished, and that to be finished, and that to be finished, and you want to get it done, but that department that's supposed to get it done for you, or only their small piece, they actually have other priorities, so now you compete against 1,000 other things that they need to do. So all of a sudden you can wait 2 weeks for something that takes somebody else 15 minutes. And that's very, very frustrating for marketers.
Yeah. So you're giving marketers the freedom and the tools that they probably haven't had or been able to use before.
100%. It's the tools. The tools are important, and Optimove is a platform. We're providing those tools. A lot of it is powered by GenAI. I think I wouldn't be sitting here today. Victor Hugo said that there's nothing like an idea that its time has come.
Right.
It's a very powerful statement. So being versatile has always been good, right? So why didn't I sit here or somewhere else 5 years ago and said the same thing? Because it was much harder to be versatile. Now, with the power of GenAI, we can all be enhanced, and we can all succeed a lot more and be more versatile and know how to do more things with relative ease, right? So that's the tooling and the technology, but at the same time, people need to agree to have the curiosity. Organizations need to allow for structures that support that. But then when we can do more things, you're not waiting for 2 weeks for that 15-minute task. And guess what? You're executing what you need to do much faster. So you delight your customers in a much faster pace.
That's super interesting. But is this a year? Now, when did you first come up with this? A year ago?
Exactly a year ago.
What does that look like in the space of a year?
You mean from a time perspective?
Yeah, from where we are today with the idea. Obviously, you're inspired, you've watched basketball, you put this thing together.
So what we've done last year, it was an idea. We just put it out there. We saw that the response was really good. So as a company, we said, okay, great. Can we be the home of positionless marketers? And we realized that we can, but we have one thing missing. So we think of a positionless marketer as a marketer who has three powers. So it's like a triple threat, right? So they have data power, creative power, and optimization power. Now, data power we've always given, optimization power we've always given, but we've never given our customers creative power, meaning the ability to write copy, the ability to create a visual asset, the ability to edit a visual asset, the ability to test multiple variations of creatives, and we're doing it now. So when we're doing it, now that we're doing it, because we've added a lot of GenAI into Optimove with OptiGenie and a lot of other things, that's our GenAI agent. We've added a ton of GenAI to enable our users to also have creative power. Data power and optimization power they've always had in Optimove, so now they can truly be positionless. And we're going to double down with that. We're going to basically go all in with this notion, soup to nuts across the entire company of Optimove.
Yeah,
Yes.
You're all in.
All in.
Fourth quarter,
All
10
in.
seconds, down by one.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm going for it.
I'm either living in an aeroplane or I'm at iGaming and industry events. Yesterday, when you started off the day, your presentation, I'd never seen people stood around a room. It's very rarely, like in this space, everything is full. To say that this is only a year old and, I don't know, maybe this is the first time you've got all of your clients in one space together and prospects. What are the conversations you're having? Like, what is the feel? Like, surely over the last 2 days, you've probably learned something or you're getting some feedback. Would you mind sharing with us what that looks like?
So the coolest thing I've heard is that somebody told me, one of our clients told me that they were actually on stage presenting how their business became positionless. And they told me that they were inspired from my session last year. And I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's really cool. I wasn't sure people were listening or caring.
Yeah.
They were there, but I wasn't, you never know how other people process what you're saying. So they actually went through, they're a very open company. They're at a crossroads of their existence as a business, so they're open to change. So they're changing a lot of things. They have changed, they're able to use all of Optimove's different solutions to essentially replace a combination of 5 vendors. And they really restructured the way their teams work and the org structure itself to cater for this notion of positionless.
Yeah. Pini, what I can say about what you were talking about yesterday and how relatable you are with your new idea is, if you just went into the fundamentals of this idea, I wouldn't have got it. But you've made it extremely relatable to me through basketball, and I feel like I get it, I trust it, I'm behind it, and I actually can see now from somebody that's not experienced in this area of the industry, like I get it. So in this industry, I know you work in other industries as well, but like for iGaming, look, most people are into gambling, most people are into sports, right? There's a lot of basketball players out there. Could you make it relatable to people who maybe are not into basketball, yeah?
100%. The reason we believe this could be a movement, it's because it's so relatable and because it's so fundamental in just, human nature. People have, an innate curiosity when it comes to knowing more things, being able to do more things, unlocking their multi-potentiality.
Right.
Is something that we like to talk about. Although, in other cases, it also can invoke some fear, saying, wait, I need to do a lot more things now, or things of that nature. But in terms of the analogies, so it started with basketball. In basketball, it's actually called positionless basketball, and we kept it because we felt it's very accurate. But then, throughout the last year, when I pitch it, people say, it's also in football. I was like, really?
Yeah.
It's like somebody told me, yeah, it's called total football. And, Ajax in the late 60s had a coach called Rinus Michels.
Okay.
And Rinus Michels had a tremendously successful Ajax teams, and he pioneered a method called total football where essentially players don't have positions. Defenders attack, attackers defend, Players, a player can leave his position and another one fills it in directly. Players need to be fast thinkers, quick on their feet, quick to adapt. And the main player that embodied that approach was Johan Cruyff. He was Rinus Michels' player in Ajax, and then later in the 1974 World Cup, I think the Dutch team got to the final or something. They were really successful with this approach. Later in the years, guess who's the coach of Barcelona? Johan Cruyff. Who's one of his players? Pep Guardiola, who becomes then tiki-taka basketball, tiki-taka style of play. Basically, it's modern football today.
Yeah.
All of modern football today, in a way, is also positionless, just like basketball. It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
So nobody calls it anymore anything, but basically what it is. Then you think about martial arts, which I love. I do boxing myself. I used to do karate as a child. As kids, we would debate who's stronger, the best karate master versus the best kung fu master, or the best Muay Thai versus the best kickboxer, or the best grappler versus the best jiu-jitsu artist, right? Who's the best, right? Who can kick whose ass, right?
Yeah.
As kids, you always debate that. And UFC 1993 decided to answer that question. They took fighters from different disciplines, they put them in a ring and see what happens. And it was apparent again and again that fighters with just that come from one discipline always failed. Fighters that were versatile, fighters that displayed mixed martial arts, MMA, the birth of MMA, were the best. And one that comes to mind is Royce Gracie, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist who could also fight standing up. And he won a lot. So the best fighters are the positionless fighters. Fighters that can fight standing up, they can fight on the floor, they can use their arms, they can use their legs, they can do it all. Right?
Well, the views speak for themselves, right?
Exactly.
Compared to all of the other martial arts, and it really went through the roof.
Exactly.
All right, so I get it. A lot of people do. I think I would have debates with a few guys I know. They kind of like what they know and they like staying in their box, right?
Yes.
Do you have in the box people that are struggling with this concept? And, how are those conversations been? Whether it's about the marketing or the sport, I think it's both relevant. Could you share a little bit about that?
100%. So definitely a lot of people are skeptical. They're saying, wait, Pini, are you proposing to eliminate, different departments that have specialization in some kind of a field? Are you proposing to no longer do an assembly line type of an approach? How am I going to work? How am I going to do what I need to do? Like, do marketers actually want liberation? Does it mean for marketers that they need to do more work? I mean, nobody wants to get penalized, quote unquote, with doing much more work than they do today and getting the same pay. So the answer is, it's not an all or nothing type of a thing. So it's not like, hey, you're either positionless or not. You either walk in an assembly line or not.
Right.
It's, can you be more positionless? Can you be more versatile?
Okay.
If you are an analytics team, can you add one more skill to your team so that in 20% of the task where they are dependent on another team, they will no longer be dependent. They will be able to do it themselves. You just unlock some positionlessness.
Yeah.
It's a hard word to say, positionlessness. Right?
Yes.
It's like positionlessness.
Positionlessness.
You're an English speaker, and you can.
Well, your vocabulary is much better than mine. You articulate better.
Thank you. I don't know. But yeah, positionlessness is definitely a funny one. So, if you can increase that, then you are improving execution.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there's a famous study on, again, going back to my industrial engineering background, famous study about production lines where, they have a worker on machine 1 and a worker on machine 2 and a worker on machine 3. And then you test the efficiency of the production line. And then they see what happens when you train the worker on machine 2 to also be able to cover for machine 1. What happens when they're also able to cover for machine 3? They're still in machine 2, but they can go to 1 and they can go to 3. And when they did that, the production line efficiency went through the roof. The same.
And that's what it's all about.
It's the same idea. You just unlock some, add some versatility.
Yeah.
Not on everything you do. Like the very the most difficult task that requires the deepest level of specialization will still be done by the specialist.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely okay. But what about a lot of the tasks that could be do it yourself for just one autonomous team?
Yeah. I mean, that takes me on to this. So, not going to throw any names out, but I'm the CMO of quite a large operator, but it's kind of stuck in their ways. They're a little bit rigid.
Yes.
They're back, and I'm sure that you and your team
Change
have this
adverse.
I'm sat here right now. I'm change adverse, but of course, I'm here and I'm listening to you. What would you say to me? Like, how should we come and work with you?
Join the movement, brother.
That's it.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
But what it means is, I guess you're right. Number one, the sponsorship needs to come from the executives.
Right.
The executives must sponsor that approach and allow their teams to basically restructure how they work. If that doesn't happen, it's going to be very, very hard.
Yeah.
It may be percolating from down up, but it needs to come from there. And I would just say, look, you acknowledge the fact that GenAI is changing how we work, right? And I'm not the only one. Josh Bersin, who is a famous HR guru and HR influencer, he wrote an article recently and he called it The Rise of the Superworker.
Okay.
It's exactly the same thing. He said like the modern worker in an AI-powered workplace is doing a lot more things that they didn't do before. So I'm saying to the CMO, you acknowledge the fact that the world is changing and GenAI, it's not just another, it's pretty big. Like it's a pretty big jump in the intelligence of computers. It's not like a faster computer or like a faster internet. It's not incremental, right? It's a step function. So we've jumped to another level, right? So you probably acknowledge that. I presume a lot of people would agree with that. And then I would say, like, let's look at the opportunity. What it means is, like, I would say, like, why are startups? See, a startup company, right? They're up. They exist for 3 years.
If they're lucky.
No, let's say it's a successful one, right? So they've built this new technology. They exist for 3 years, and all of a sudden they compete for this huge deal.
Right.
How did they get there? How can they compete against a company that existed 20 years? You know why? Because they work very fast. Why do they work very fast? Their employees wear many hats. Have you heard that expression?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yes,
Positionless players. So you're actually starting off.
Positionless employees.
Yeah.
So what do startups have? You hire a guy or a girl that can wear many hats. So one day she's doing marketing, the next day she's doing operations, the next day she's doing chief of staffing, the next day she's helping with code.
Yeah, absolutely.
They wear many hats.
Yeah.
They don't have an assembly line. Work is just flying through, the production line. Everything is fast. The level of the pace at which they progress and get feedback and improve and do it again and do it again and do it again. When 3 years go by, they have an amazing offering. Whereas a very stagnant, old company that's not willing to change, willing to change, is just going to get left behind. And the problem is, I would say to that CMO, it's like the book Innovator's Dilemma. In many times when you start losing, it's too late. It creeps up on you. It creeps up on you, and then it's too late.
Yeah.
Then it's too late. So you need to basically, you always need to be ahead of the curve. So, and even if you don't believe me, Mr. CMO, try small. Just don't make a huge change. Don't break down the structure that you have today, but give each one of the departments an exercise to add one more capability to their arsenal, to be able to remove one dependency in another department. One and one.
Okay. So
one more capability that will remove one dependency in another department. Just start with that.
And that seems less painful for a change adverse guy.
So for example, analytics department used to get 100% of requests we're going to shrink it to 94%. percent 6% of the requests will no longer come because that department on the other side will learn how to do it themselves.
Yeah.
That's it. Now let's talk in 3 months, Mr. CMO.
I like it. Going back to those startups, because that just kind of hit home with me for a bit. A lot of friends I'm working with at the moment looking for roles themselves. What happens to those startups with those positionless people that wear many hats?
Right.
As it grows, what is the danger of a company boxing in their staff as it grows, as it does, right? Do you think they started that way and they're more efficient? Like, what happens with that startup?
It happened, so I can tell you that, look, you basically, so even if in positionless basketball, you see what happens is everybody's positionless, but you still have a role, like a 3-and-D guy, right?
Yeah.
You need to shoot threes, and you need to play defense.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're not doing everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But all of a sudden, you're not called a shooting guard, you're called a 3-and-D guy.
Yeah.
So you have a role, right? Your role is made off of a few different skill sets. So I think that ultimately, I do think that an assembly line, and it's kind of like it's kind of like a multi-layered message, because I'm saying the assembly lines are the villain. Let's kill the assembly lines.
Yep.
And now I'm saying that assembly lines can still exist. They just need to exist in a form that each function within the assembly line is much more versatile. That's all I'm saying. So even as you grow, it's okay to basically start dividing your specialities and start creating. We do it at Optimove all the time. We do it ourselves, right? It's this idea of basically. I think it depends on the company. Some companies would benefit from more of an assembly line, and some companies would benefit from less of an assembly line. But each assembly line needs to definitely strive that the workstation, no matter where in the assembly line, each workstation needs to always strive to be as versatile as possible to get what they need to do in the best way.
Yeah, I've been around a lot of your staff the last 2 days, and I was blown away by how amazing they are. They're experts, but how personal they are and how great they are at articulating what they do. And I haven't seen what their work is, but I can tell that it's unreal. What do you look for when you're hiring? Because there's a certain standard here.
Somebody once told me something like a nice analogy about culture. It's like he talked about the pickles and the pickle juice. So the pickle juice, but like-minded people like to be in a similar pickle juice. The pickle juice is basically the culture of the company, how it feels like to be in the company. What are the values of the company? What's appreciated here? How do I feel when I'm here? Who are the cultural heroes? Can I relate to them? Do I want to be like them? And I think we've always done a good job in building a healthy culture, because what we do requires some level of intellectual depth. Then it typically attracts a certain type of people. Certain type of people succeed here.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it happen.
Yeah, well, I can definitely see that. Look, we spoke about how you got here, the analogy, the kind of people that need to be involved. Where are we going with this? Where's the future? Let's 1, 2 years from now. What are you putting into this? I know you're going all in. And what can people expect?
People can mostly expect us to fulfill this promise, meaning that when they engage with us as a business and when they engage with our platform, with our technology, it will allow them to truly be positionless, to have true data power, true creative power, and true optimization power. That's basically our kind of like beliefs and how we're going to build everything. And throughout the sessions in the last 2 days, people that were here saw those capabilities. And that's what I want to see happening.
All right, that's great. Before I wrap this up, who are your favorite ball players. And I think you showed me somebody last night I wasn't too familiar with. You might want to give a shout out to today.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Denny Avdija. Denny Avdija is the only Israeli player in the NBA. Who's kind of like, we always joke that genetically he's a little bit cheating because his dad is actually a Serbian player that came to play in Israel.
The Serbs do well.
Yeah, Jokic, yeah. So he came to play in Israel as a foreign player, I think probably 30, 35 years ago, met Denny's mom, an Israeli woman, and they had Denny, so that's why he's 6'9". Some Serbian genes, and probably a bit more athletic. But Denny plays for the Blazers.
Right.
They have a very exciting young core, and he's one of the main, pivots in that young core. And he's having an awesome season, so I'm just like excited to watch him. And he's very much positionless, by the way.
Yeah, I saw a highlight of him.
He can,
a bit of a beast.
He defends. He handles the ball. He shoots. He drives. He's a very good driver to the basket. He passes. Good on the free throw. Like he's becoming like he was the 9th pick. He was picked when he was 19. It took him a few years to basically bake.
Right.
And I'm hoping that like this year is like it's like breaking out. Let's see next year. Hopefully, I don't know. We hope that maybe one day he'll be an all-star.
And well, that's I mean, from the highlights I've seen, it looks like that. You raided the piggy bank last year and went to a very exciting game. And I actually, before I even met you, your algorithms on LinkedIn, your post came up and it was about the Celtics. It looked like you had an amazing experience. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just went to the NBA Finals. I bought I was like, it's happening in Boston. There's a direct flight Tel Aviv to Boston, number one. Number two, the 2 first games of the NBA Finals happen within a 3-day time span. So I can just fly to Boston, spend 3 days in Boston and watch 2 NBA final games. And Luka and Kyrie was against the Dallas Mavericks, so Luka and Kyrie was there. So I was like, I'm doing it. I want to sit courtside. So I basically, made the investment.
Good investment.
Yeah, made the investment. Invest in experiences, not in things.
I love that.
So I invested in the experience and had like a really nice 3 days. Yeah, it was really. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal was right there next to me.
Yeah.
JJ Redick was over here.
How did you know where to, that must have been...
It's cool,
you're trying to watch the game and you're having conversations.
It's funny, I was mostly excited about the media people because I love the debate culture of sports commentators. So I was mostly excited about Stephen A. Smith and people from ESPN.
Great commentator.
Yeah. So they were like there and
yeah.
That was really
Sounds
cool.
like a blast.
Yeah.
Pini, is there anything you'd like to add to this podcast today, or anything you'd like to let anyone know about? I've had an absolute blast with you.
Yeah, likewise. Let's Ross, it's been a pleasure, and let's have a good week and a good year.
Thank you ever so much.
Cheers.
You've been at Optimove's Connect 2025 podcast. I'm Ross from Next.io, the legend Pini, founder and CEO of Optimove. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.